To you, who probably have 100 thought tabs open in your mind, thank you for deciding to open one more tab and choosing to spend it with me. I hope the sound from this tab will be gentle enough for you to temporarily ignore notifications from other tabs. I am He, and thank you for joining my 8th podcast episode. It's been a while since we last met, hasn't it? This will likely be the final podcast to close out the Lunar New Year 2025 before I take a short break to welcome Tet 2026. Thankfully, I managed to finish this episode before Tet, and I hope it can be a moment of quiet, a space where you can slow down a bit amidst all the hustle and bustle of these year-end days. Now, let's begin. The end of the year always brings a strange feeling. It's like even though I'm sitting in the office, in front of a computer screen with files that haven't even been properly named, and my ears still pick up the steady ping of email notifications, my mind is already somewhere else. A trip, a ticket, a wall calendar I keep flipping through in my head, counting down each tiny square. Just to tell myself, just a few more days until I go home to my parents. Tet isn't here yet. Outside, it's still ordinary working days. Still rush hour traffic, still hurried morning coffees and quick lunches, but the atmosphere is different now. The familiar streets start getting a little busier in the evenings. On social media, people talk more about holiday schedules, train and bus tickets, and who's going home for Tet this year. In family chat groups, parents start asking, "When do you get off work? Are you coming home early this year? Have you booked your tickets yet?" I've noticed that at this time of year, young people like us always share a common state. We're both exhausted and excited. Exhausted because year-end tasks pile up as if they've been waiting all year just for these few weeks. There are GN parties, reports, and deadlines with the added pressure of before Tet. But at the same time, we're also incredibly excited. Excited because Tet is truly approaching, and familiar images start appearing in our minds. Dragging a rattling suitcase out of a tiny rented room, then squeezing onto a bus or through an airport. The scene of sitting on a moving vehicle, watching rows of yellow lights gradually recede behind the window. There's a very distinct kind of year-end eagerness, a silent eagerness. It's not about joyful cheering, but a simmering feeling deep inside. It's always there. I'm still working, still replying to emails, still studying, but in my head a phrase constantly runs through, "Almost done, just a little more." I think many young people living away from home will understand this feeling. The feeling of wanting to work really fast, a little faster than usual, a little more determined than usual. Not necessarily because of ambition, not because I want to prove anything to anyone, but simply because I want to go home. I want to finish all my tasks so that when I pick up my suitcase and step onto the bus back to my hometown, my mind is completely free of worries. I want to sit down to that year-end meal at home without picking up food and thinking, "Oh no, I still have unreplied emails." At the end of the year, people often say to each other, "Hang in there, the year's almost over." It sounds like encouragement, right? But it also feels like a self-imposed urge. And so, we naturally learn the habit of fast-forwarding everything. Fast-forwarding the last few weeks of the year, fast-forwarding the feeling of exhaustion. Fast-forwarding late evenings spent eating a quick, makeshift meal before opening the laptop to work again. But before we talk about whether that's okay or not okay, there's something really sweet that I think everyone carries in their heart at this time. No matter where you go, what you do, or how old you are, Tet will always be connected to home, to parents, to the feeling of returning to be a child again. At least for the first few days of the new year. Just thinking about the scene of arriving home, I already feel incredibly light. Maybe opening the door and stepping inside, then smelling the familiar scent of food wafting from the kitchen. Maybe a simple question from Mom, "Are you hungry? I'll cook something for you." Maybe Dad sitting in the living room, seeing his daughter arrive and running out to open the gate. These are such small things, but strangely, the older I get, the more I cherish them. That's why, no matter how busy the year, no matter how much work or pressure, when these days come, young people living away from home, including myself, feel a strong urge to return to their hometown for Tet. It's not because Tet holds something grand for me, not because of lavish feasts, but because it is one of the very few times of the year when I am allowed to pause, to return to a familiar place, and to be with the people who were there before I even realized I had grown up. And it is that feeling of eagerness that initiates all the other thoughts we have at year-end, such as thoughts about time, about family, about how far we've come and whether we are moving too fast. Don't you agree that young people like us aren't not trying, but trying incredibly hard in silence? All year long, everyone is struggling to live a life that looks stable from the outside, but internally, sometimes just a little more pressure would make us want to give up completely. Some people enter the new year with many expectations. At the beginning of the year, they set goals to achieve this and that. Looking back at the end of the year, they find themselves still standing in the same place. It's not because of laziness, not because they didn't try, but because some years, life only allows us to take very small steps. So small that if you don't look closely, you won't even realize you've moved forward. Some months, young people are just struggling to survive. Paying rent on time, buying food, paying for electricity and water, having a job, and getting a salary is enough to be happy. Not wealthy, but not at rock bottom either. It sounds normal, doesn't it? But to live in that state for an entire year, I don't think it's easy at all. Some people live all year with a sense of self-doubt, doubting their career choices, their abilities, whether they are on the right path or just standing still while everyone else moves forward daily. Every time I see friends showcasing their achievements, one moving to a new house, another buying a new car, another getting a promotion, another taking a luxurious trip, my heart sinks a little. Wow, many times I've asked myself, how nice, I wonder when I'll get to be like that. Some carry immense pressure from living away from home. They endure sickness alone, bear fatigue alone. During the worst times of the year, they dare not call their parents, fearing that just hearing a familiar voice would make them lose control. So they choose silence. They choose to say, yes, I'm fine. They choose to swallow everything and get through those days when just a sigh makes them want to cry. Looking back at the end of the year, many suddenly realize they've expended so much energy just to keep their lives from falling apart, from collapsing, from giving up. And strangely, that is not considered a significant accomplishment. No one will applaud you for still standing firm, but only those who live it know that just standing firm is already incredibly tiring and difficult. Therefore, in the days leading up to Tet, everyone carries their own unique sadness. Not sadness over failure, but sadness over feeling like they haven't achieved anything, haven't got anywhere. Looking back at the whole year, they see no significant milestone to be proud of with their parents, no truly brilliant moment to recount, only a very long year filled with many difficulties that only they understand. And in that state, young people both eagerly await Tet to go home and feel a slight hesitation. They long to go home to rest, to be with their parents, but they also procrastinate because they feel they have nothing to bring home but their exhaustion. There are some year-end evenings, after I've finished all my work, I sit alone and ask myself, if I go home now, what will I tell my relatives and friends when they ask? Will I tell them that this year I tried very hard but the results are still the same? Will I tell them that I'm so tired but I still don't dare to stop? Oh, that's too ordinary, right? Too weak, right? Even though sometimes it's not my fault, I haven't done anything wrong, but saying it all out loud is also very difficult. An ordinary year for an ordinary person, not a failure, but not a success either. A year that took a lot of my health and a lot of my faith, but when I look back, it seems like nothing. And from that emptiness, Tet becomes a refuge for me, not to show off or prove anything, but to go home and be my most authentic self, even if it's a very tired version. Just thinking about sitting down to a meal without having to put on a brave face, getting a full night's sleep without worrying about rushing to meet a deadline tomorrow morning, makes my heart feel so much lighter. Perhaps what young people need at the end of the year isn't for someone to tell them, oh, you're so good already, but simply a place to return to, a place that doesn't ask how far they've gone, a place where just their presence is enough. Young people who leave their hometowns for the city usually don't go alone. They carry many expectations with them. Expectations from family, from society, and most of all, from themselves. Everyone once thought they would go further, do more, live a different life from where they grew up. But by the end of the year, when everything slows down a bit, when they sit down to seriously reflect, not everyone finds that they have gone exactly as they had hoped. Some go slower, some veer off course, and some keep going but still feel like they're standing still. There's a scene in Zootopia, one that, if you pay close attention, you'll find is very similar to our lives. Let me tell you about it briefly. In the movie, Judy leaves her hometown, where she grew up, with a small suitcase and enormous faith. She believes the city is a place where anyone can become anything they want. And on the train to Zootopia, her eyes light up, seeing the future everywhere. At that moment, everything seemed just like the dream Judy had imagined. But on her first day of work, that dream began to lose a little of its sparkle. Among all the large animals at the police department, Judy was tiny, like a small dot. She wasn't given important tasks, nor was she immediately trusted. Her first job was just writing parking tickets. All day she had to stand on the street doing things no one paid attention to, while the big cases were happening somewhere far away. In the evening, Judy returned to her tiny rented room in Rodentia. The city of her dreams was no longer as quiet as she imagined. Noise echoed from every direction. Judy lay there, utterly exhausted, unable to sleep. The city was vast, but her space within it was pitiably small. Then her phone rang. Judy's parents were calling. Judy immediately perked up, her ears perking. Despite being utterly exhausted after a hard day's work, just seeing her parents' names on the screen made her smile quickly, and her voice became cheerful and excited. She said everything in the city was fine, work was good, the city was wonderful, telling her parents not to worry. But when the call ended, you know what happened? The smile vanished from her face, and the room was left with only a small Judy and her unspoken exhaustion. No one knew how sad Judy was that day, and truthfully, no one needed to know. And I see that the young people around me are living similar lives. On some year-end evenings, I drive past old dorm areas. Yellow lights shine from those small rooms. Inside, many young people are living lives their parents might never have imagined. They eat a quick, simple meal. In the evening, they call home for about 5 to 10 minutes, then hang up with a familiar phrase, "Okay, I'm hanging up now, I have too much work today." On the other end of the line, parents might also be busy preparing for the year-end, cleaning the house, buying a few small things for Tet. But it's also possible that after hanging up, parents will sit for a while with the phone in their hands, unspoken thoughts running through their minds. I wonder if they're tired this year. I wonder if they're really okay out there. As young people grow up, the distance between home and away from home is no longer just geographical. It's the distance of different rhythms of life, of things that are no longer easy to talk about as before. There are fatigues that are impossible to fully explain. There are uncertainties where if you don't stand firm, you'll fall. And so, both sides choose silence to avoid worrying each other. I find that the busy, competitive life sometimes makes young people get used to postponing things, postponing work, postponing friends, and even postponing family. They always think, oh, if not this year, then next year. But there's a strange thing. Among all the things we postpone, time never waits for us. Parents won't say it, but time is evident on them every time we return home. Their walk might be a little slower, their movements to stand up or sit down a little more cautious, their phrases repeated more often because their memory isn't as quick as before. These changes happen slowly. So slowly that if you were home every day, you might not even notice. Only when you've been away for a long time and then return do you suddenly realize, my parents have aged so much. On some evenings at home, parents don't do anything special. They just sit watching TV or tidying up small things. But I notice that just my sitting beside them, without needing to say much, just my returning home without needing a big story to tell, is enough for them. I feel that my presence is a gift to my parents. And I suddenly realized something I used to overlook. Parents won't wait for me to bring back success. Parents don't need me to become some brilliant version of myself before I can come home. What parents need from beginning to end is simply, "Are you there, my child? Are you coming home?" Parents' time is not measured by deadlines or 5, 10, or 20-year goals, but by the remaining Tet holidays, by the meals where all family members are present, by the times they can sit together in a familiar home. And those things, if missed, cannot be brought back. We young people often think we have plenty of time, but our parents don't have as many, next year's, as we imagine. There are some Tet holidays that, if we don't go home, will be forever a Tet that can never be relived. So I wonder if you feel the same way. We young people often think we have plenty of time, but our parents don't have as many, next year's, as we imagine. There are some Tet holidays that, if we don't go home, will be forever a Tet that can never be relived. So, if your year wasn't particularly brilliant, if your job was ordinary, your income normal, your achievements average, that's perfectly fine. Some years don't require you to shine. Some years, just surviving, having enough health to go home, and enough time to share a meal with your parents is already a great accomplishment. Don't wait until you have enough to go home. because by the time you feel ready, your parents might no longer be there waiting. Going home is not a reward for success. Going home is something that should be done while there's still time. Tet is coming soon, so if you can, please go home. You don't need to bring a beautiful year, just bring your most intact self. Because for your parents, that is already enough. And that brings us to the end of today's podcast. It's time to close this tab. I hope this tab today has helped you sort out some thoughts or simply given you a moment to breathe. Now, you can return to your other tabs with a lighter heart. Goodbye, and I'll see you in our next tab opening. Wishing everyone a peaceful and healthy new year. Yeah.